hands yet.
Okay.
So, but yeah, just for record, we are officially live. Bear with me. I'm just making sure I've got the chat in front of me. But oh, of course, not once. Oh, I remember how to hide this. Okay, so we're good to go. But yeah, so for the record, I think I mentioned I actually don't have a dual sport at this time. Ryan is desperately trying to convince me to buy a dual sport,
Yeah.
but I ended
So
up
I
picking up
guess,
an Xterra.
yeah, to start off, we're planning on doing the TAT in 2025, like late in the year sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I have a DRZ 400 that I'm planning to take down there, and Mitch wants to take his Xterra.
Yeah, Xterra Pro 4X, so 2-inch lift, 33, and then rear locker. So it's not a Jeep by any means, but it'll go farther than I need it to. So, but yeah, now obviously you and your son did this on fairly large dual sports. Ryan was actually talking to me, and he was describing it much as a race bike. And I see you guys have a lot of
Yeah, those.
racing experience.
Yeah, so my background growing up, living in West Virginia, grew up on dirt bikes, riding in the woods, dirt roads,
Mm-hmm.
woods, single track, that kind of thing. And I raced a lot of motocross in my younger days. Just local motocross tracks, kind of a hobby for me. And then kind of got away from dirt bike riding for a few years. And my son, when he was probably from about 8 years old to 12 years old, he rode a lot. He raced motocross. So we both rode and raced a good bit. Then got out of it for a while, and back in I guess it's 2019, he moved back in with us. Had some different life situation things going on. He moved back
Yep.
in with us, and he and I got to talking, and we were like, why did we stop riding dirt bikes? We weren't sure why we stopped, and got to looking at him, and someone told us about the Trans American Trail, and we said, yeah, that is something we should do. Just as
Yeah,
soon as we heard about it, we started watching it, just like you guys. We started watching the YouTube videos, and we spent probably a day just watching YouTube videos,
that's
and
awesome.
we said, oh, we've got to do this. So
Yeah.
we're both engineers. I mean, we're both electrical
Really?
engineers. Yeah, yeah. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
so we started, we're very detail oriented, right?
Yep.
We
Sure.
started researching, and we did our research, and we looked we looked at the DRZ and at the BMWs and the Honda offerings, the Africa Twins, and uh, the big bikes just didn't appeal to me
Mm-hmm.
much. The big ADV, adventure touring bikes. I'm not a big guy at all, and my son's not either. And plus, we're more geared to the off road and the trails. So we wanted a bike that we could ride on the road, but if we wanted to take it off road on some single track in Colorado, we could.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we picked the Honda CRF 450. It was kind of the perfect bike for that, because it's a dual sport bike. It's licensed. It's road legal, but it's got the motocross inspired engine, which a drawback to that is that it has a low maintenance interval, so you have to change the oil a lot. But the
You
upside
guys
to it
do that on the
is,
trail?
yeah, we did. But
Wow.
the upside
Nice.
is you get a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a street bike engine; it's a dirt bike engine. And when you get off road, it really, really pops. And that was kind of the selling point for us. So we got the Honda CRF 450L,
Yeah.
and that's what we did the ride on.
I figured that would be beneficial, especially with how much gear you guys have to carry. And that's one thing that we've considered is the fact that, I've got a mid-size SUV that I'm driving. So ideally, as long as I do take the Xterra, I will have to carry Ryan's gear. So luckily he doesn't have to lug that around. But do you know how much weight and gear were you guys carrying as far as tent, food?
We never actually waited.
Mm-hmm.
We went as minimalistic as we could. We got the Wolfman luggage rack, not
Yep.
rack, but it's like a luggage bag saddle. It goes over the back of the bike. It's got a bag on top and one on each side. And we just packed everything we could in those three bags. And we literally took just enough to get by as far as, supplies. and I think we actually packed just right. We really the only thing we did is like the second day in, we realized we didn't have enough clothes. We had to stop by Dick's Sporting Goods and buy some extra base layer and underwear because there's not much opportunity to wash your clothes. So we had to pick up a few extra clothes. But besides that, everything else, we had all the tools for changing our oil. We had the tools for changing a flat. We had the camping gear. We just had one tent that we shared. So we went really minimalistic, and the pack probably wasn't more than 15 pounds, I would say, maybe
Oh, wow.
20 most.
Oh, wow. I don't know what I was expecting, but I guess it wasn't 15 pounds. And
Well, I mean, you could take if you had a car, that would be ideal because having that space to put extra equipment would be great.
yeah,
We just didn't have that luxury.
yeah, it's interesting because as we start planning this, I've been telling Ryan that I fully plan to sleep in the back of my Xterra. I was actually supposed to go down and go racing in my Miata next week, and I fully plan to tow that down and sleep in the back of my Xterra. It is my mobile off-road camper. Throw down a air mattress and call it a day. So I might have to consider just making sure that I have room to set that up and then crawl inside. But yeah, as far as weight goes, if weight becomes an issue on a steeper incline, I've always got 4 low, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, the only thing I could think of is, I'd probably have to bring a jack, and a decent jack at that, considering, I am lifted on big tires. So I apologize. Here, let me turn that off. But yeah, I mean, as we watched, I don't know, it was crazy because you could tell that you guys were experienced because you guys were very well at maneuvering those bikes around. And I didn't realize you guys had so much content also just generally racing those motorcycles. And it wasn't until I kind of went back to, prepare for this that I saw all of that. And I was like, oh, yeah, these guys have been doing this for a while. But I didn't realize it sounds like since you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, when I was probably second or third grade, I got my first dirt bike, and living kind of in a remote area in central West Virginia, there wasn't much else to do, so we just rode bikes all the time, and graduated from a 50 to an 80, and then when I got the 80, it was a motocross bike, so I started racing at local tracks, and just it's always been a passion for me. Anything dirt bikes, like watching supercross and motocross, outdoor motocross. That's my favorite sports. Every year we go to at least one supercross race, and we go to at least one motocross race, outdoor motocross. It's just always been a passion for me. Dirt bikes have. I don't know what it is. Can't explain it.
Yeah.
But it's just I fell in love with them at a young age, and I don't know if you've ever saw the magazine Motocross Action. It's one of the older motocross magazines. It's been around forever. It used to be in all the Kroger stores in our area when I was a kid, and so I would subscribe to that and read every single page of it. That's back before the internet, right? There was no internet or nothing like that, so that was the only content you could get. And I would look forward to every month to get to that Motocross Action magazine and read every page of it because I was so into it. So yeah, I've been, and then my son, I had him kind of young. I was 20 when we had him. So as soon as he was old enough to ride a little PW50, I had him on that, and he took right to it. And he had 65s and 85s, and he raced motocross. And we've always had tracks. I used to have a track around my house, like a motocross track. So we would ride all the time. And then now I have a trail, a 6-mile single track trail at my house for like woods riding. So we just rode today. I just now finished a 2-hour ride up in the woods with some friends. So
Oh, wow.
it's
awesome.
it's my passion. It's my hobby.
That is super cool.
And then we got into the GNCC stuff several years back. That's a Grand National Cross Country Racing Series, and we that was right up our alley. So we've traveled from Florida to Indiana to Pennsylvania doing GNCC races, which is just a blast.
Yeah, It's funny you mentioned that you had your son at 20. I'm currently 28, and I just had my first, who was 6 months old. Actually, my wife is going to be coming home with him here very shortly. But yeah, it's something that I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to tackle being gone for. We're trying to gauge how long we're going to be gone, because it sounds like you guys tried to do it in 30 days, and I believe you were successful, ending on what, day 28?
We did it right at 30 days, and
Oh,
it was
okay.
tough. It was
Wow.
tough. And we had to really push to get it done.
Yeah, in your videos, we can tell you guys were moving in some
Yeah.
of those sections.
Yeah, there were days where we just put the hammer down. You know,
Yeah.
we'd go 300, 350 miles as hard as we could go.
Yeah. It was funny as we were.
We started in West Virginia and
Mhm.
rode to the coast in North Carolina.
Right.
We had 2 or 3 days in just getting to the coast, and then we started across the country.
Yeah. It's crazy because, obviously we're in Indiana. Well, Ryan's in Michigan, like he said. And we got to talking about it. And the original plan was obviously to do the full TAT. And then we got to figuring out it was 2 days just to get to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you start factoring in going from the East Coast to the West Coast. And now I'm in a 4,000 pound SUV that's going to get rocking all over the place full of luggage. And I think I heard somebody post, because I'm now in like a 4x4 Trans-American Trail group. And I believe I heard somebody else estimate 6 weeks to do the trip. So it sounds like now we may be actually towing his bike out to maybe Arkansas and trying to hit the west section. Just, yeah.
I was going to say the East Coast, I'm glad we did it, but it really wasn't anything.
That's what I was kind of wondering is like, were there any sections to where you were just like, we'd probably just skip that?
Yeah, the East Coast was from the coast in like past Charlotte, North Carolina. It's just one lane blacktop roads mainly, and some dirt roads, some dirt, but yeah, it's just pavement pounding, and it's not really. If you're gonna skip something, that's definitely the thing to skip. And you get into North Carolina, when you get into I think it's the Cherokee National Forest, that's pretty good. That's pretty good mountainous, dirt roads, dirt and rocky roads. And then when you get into Tennessee, like Tellico Plains, that's pretty good. That stuff's not bad. But for us, it's very similar to West Virginia riding.
Yep.
So it really wasn't anything different for us. And like the Ozarks in Arkansas, that was fun. That's where you really get into some like all day long, nothing but dirt roads, going through back roads and up in the mountains and stuff. That's where it starts getting pretty good. And then where it really starts getting good is New Mexico and Colorado. That's where it really starts getting good.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, I was really exposed to Imogene Pass and Black Bear Pass based on your guys' videos, just because that was the first one I found. Actually, I want to get into the content creation part here in a little bit, but yeah, we got to watching back the Imogene Pass specifically. And it's funny, you actually mentioned, you were like, I wouldn't want to be in a Jeep here. And I was like, oh boy, we'll find out.
Well, yeah, personally, I wouldn't want to do it, but if you know what you're doing, I'm sure you'd be fine.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's another gentleman currently going across. He might be done now because he had just started recently. But he's in a, Ryan, help me. The Raptor?
Ford Raptor?
Yeah. So, full size. It's an F-150, but it's bigger than an F-150. And luckily, I'm not as big as that. I can squeeze my vehicle down some UTV trails. I've done it before. It's pin strat up pretty good, but yeah.
The Black Bear Pass is actually not on the original TAT map.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah, if you're using Sam's maps,
Mm-hmm.
then you won't do Black Bear Pass. So we used a combination of Sam's and GPS Kevin's maps.
Right.
In my mind, those are really the two main sets of maps you need. If you go to the Trans-American Trail website, the official TAT website, ran by Sam, I forget his last name, but he's kind of the original guy that mapped out the trail, and he sells the GPS tracks. It's a good trail, but it's like it leans towards the easier side of things. There's none of the really hard stuff on that.
Right.
And there's another guy. It's called GPS. GPS Kevin. If you go to his site, he sells a a set of GPS tracks for the TAT, and it's very similar to Sam's. It follows a lot of the same things, but it has a lot of options. It has a hard option or a medium option or an easy option in a lot of places, and we like that because we bought that and we took all the hard options. You know, and let me tell you, they're hard. I
Really?
mean, there's some hard options that we had to just turn around. Yeah,
Really?
it was like,
Really? Wow.
it was like, oh, we can't do this. You know, I mean, especially out in Colorado and Idaho, there's some places where it is tough. And it was fun to explore those trails. It was cool. We had a good time, but we just didn't have the time to spend, you know, picking through
Yeah.
these trails and like Rainbow Trail. I don't know if you saw that video or not.
That's
Actually our most popular video is Rainbow Trail in Colorado. That was a GPS Kevin option, and Black Bear Pass was a GPS Kevin option. All the really hard stuff was one of his options.
Interesting. So I'm curious now, was it more of a, and I don't mean to be rude here, is it more of a skill issue or is it more of just a don't want to wreck the bikes issue when you say you had to turn around?
Well, you just
A
said
little
it.
bit of both. A little bit of both. So, I mean, Jake and I, we're pretty, you know, able to tackle about whatever would hit us, you know.
Yeah.
But for one thing, it was timing. It just, you know, slows you down. We're trying to get across in 30 days, and we did Rainbow Trail, and it took us 5 hours to go 30 miles, you know.
Oh, wow.
Because it's Colorado single track at 10,000 feet elevation, and you're going up mountains and over rocks, and it's fun, and we could do it, but it was exhausting,
Right.
and it was hard on the bikes, and it was slow. So we had to, you know, skip a lot of it that we wanted to hit.
Yeah.
And there were a few times we would get on the trail, and it was out in the desert, and it would get just so steep and rocky where we're like, you know, they got kind of to the end of my skill level where I was like, okay, I don't want to chance this. You know, it's a little sketchier than I want to hit, you know, out here in the middle of nowhere. So we turned
Right.
around. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I asked, because especially with, you know, you talking about how long you've been riding and what we were watching, you know, if you guys are hitting your skill level, it sounds like it's maybe something that you don't do on a cross country road trip. Maybe that's something you go camping specifically for that.
Yeah, and Jake and I had that conversation. We should probably come back and do some of this, you know, when we're not on a cross country trip. Yeah.
So what skill level would you say someone would have to be at as far as riding a motorcycle goes to where they could do the trail and, you know, take Sam's route that's not necessarily as difficult as like the hard options?
I would say as long as you can ride a motorcycle on a dirt road, you're fine.
Perfect.
If you just take Sam's route, honestly, there is nothing harder than riding on a dirt road. Honestly,
Wow.
anybody that's rode a motorcycle much at all will be fine. I mean, there's some, you know, Forest Service type roads, but they're fine. You know, they're not difficult to ride.
Yep.
It's just when you do the GPS Kevin hard options that you get into the really tough stuff.
Well, Ryan, it's not too late.
I mean, okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been riding for 5 or 6 years now, and I've just like over the last year and a half gotten into off-road riding. I've mostly only been street riding. I've done several track days on like sport bikes and stuff, but I'm learning that off-roading is definitely more hard than I figured it would be. It takes quite a bit of skill and learning the hard way every time.
There's a knack to it. And people say, most people that haven't done it, you know, will look at it and say, well, you're just riding a motorcycle.
Oh,
you know,
man.
it's got an engine. What's the big deal? You just twist the throttle. But
it is
there's a lot
exhausting.
to it. It is very.
And you gotta constantly be paying attention.
It's very physical and it's very highly technical, especially when you get into ruts and rocks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You know, you've got to have the technique down, or it's you'll be spending a lot of time on the ground.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but on the Trans-American Trail, you don't really have any of that. I mean, it's dirt roads mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to go onto the hard stuff.
Now
don't
you
want to.
You'd also mentioned street riding, and obviously we're pretty aware that there's a good mix of street riding and dirt riding, and it sounds like depending on the route you take, it's really going to depend. But if you had to just throw out a rough ratio, what do you think it was for you guys? Was it 75% dirt, 25% road?
I would say east of the Mississippi, it was 75% road,
Oh wow, okay,
probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
60 to 70% road.
That
Yeah.
kind of solidifies my faith in our decision to skip the East Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but now once you get into Arkansas, into the Ozarks and Kansas, then it really switches to more road, more dirt, more dirt roads and gravel roads than paved roads. Probably, and you're still, I mean, it's probably down to like a 60% dirt and gravel at that point.
Interesting. It's funny you mentioned. Well, the reason I ask is because I used to ride street bikes as well with Ryan, and he kind of got into the track racing scene, and I ended up backing out. I got married, and I told the wife that I was done riding on the street. So that's part of the reason why I chose to take the Xterra versus a motorcycle. I would like to get a dirt bike, but I think if I got a dirt bike, it would be specifically for dirt, not for like a dual purpose scenario. But yeah, so yeah, it kind of solidifies my decision on the Xterra. I think it's going to be more difficult, and then actually leads into something else that I was wanting to talk to you about. I specifically remember multiple times where I saw a situation that you guys were able to get past on the motorcycles or dirt bikes that a vehicle would not be able to. If I remember correctly, you guys either went through a downed tree by going underneath of it, or it was gate that you went underneath of.
I think that was a downed tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was on. I believe that was on. I believe that was in North Carolina or Tennessee in one of the national forests. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It didn't happen much to us in a national forest. They keep those roads pretty open, but I think there had been a storm the night before, and there was a tree down, and we had to get off the bikes to get under the tree.
Yeah.
That you might want to carry a small chainsaw with you.
Yeah, the plan would definitely be to get a half decent chainsaw, and luckily I've kind of got the electric battery
Hey,
set up
you
for
got
it.
the space in the truck for it. Why not?
Yeah. If
Yeah,
I had a truck, I would definitely put a chainsaw in there.
yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, like I said, it's so easy to get carried away and be like, well, just throw it back there, just throw it back there. But also, I got to make sure that I can sleep back there. Would it be nice if I just get a rooftop tent? But
Before long, your whole truck is full.
yeah.
Yeah.
A rooftop tent would be nice, but baby formula is expensive, so we'll see if that situation improves by the time I need a tent.
Right.
So it's funny, we actually came prepared. We have a whole list of questions, so we're gonna keep rattling them off. But one thing I wanted to come back to just briefly, I've got a little bit of a following specifically through mechanics. I apologize, my video is having trouble. I post a lot of satire content recently because we're actually engineers as well. So it's funny you mentioned you're an engineer. You said you're an electrical engineer?
Or mechanical.
I'm electrical.
Nice. Yeah. We're both mechanical engineering. Well, we have MET degrees, but I was doing design work for a major diesel manufacturer for a little while, and then now I'm in government aerospace defense. And then Ryan currently works in the automotive space. Yeah.
Nice.
But it's just funny you mentioned that. We normally have a mechanic friend on here that's joining us, but unfortunately he had something going on tonight. But it's kind of a bit of a rivalry between the mechanics and engineers around here.
Yeah, right.
But sorry, I'm also trying to pull up the questions in the background. I had it all minimized that way we could set up the stream. I'm learning my computer does not like to stream multiple videos at once, so I guess I got to start setting money aside to upgrade this thing as well. Oh, one thing that we were very curious about, because we have to figure this situation out. Again, it'll be a little different for us, but you shipped your motorcycles or your dirt bikes back, and you said that took about a month. Would you do that? Well, I assume you guys aren't going to ride back, so you're definitely probably doing that again, right?
That was, for us, that was the right move, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we hit the West Coast, we were cooked.
I'd imagine.
We had nothing left. Because we rode every day. We rode 10, 12 hours a day. And like our last week, we were just wanted to get it done. You know, everything was hurting and sore, and we were tired, and we were ready to get off of those motorcycles for a bit. And when we hit Oregon, we were excited to get off of them, and it was kind of a pain because we had to get the motorcycles from Port Orford up to Portland, which was like a half a day ride. So we had to ride all the way up the coast the day after we finished and drop the motorcycles at a warehouse. And then we took an Uber to the airport and flew the red eye home that night.
Oh man.
So for us, it was worth it though to get home,
Right.
get in our own beds, and just rest a little bit. It was so worth it. Yeah, and yeah, it took them a month to get the motorcycles back, but we were okay with that. You know, we had
I'm
actually
sure you weren't wanting to ride as soon as you got back home.
no, we wanted a little break anyway. Plus, we both have KTM 250s, woods racing bikes. So we rode those on the trails here at the house, and we were plenty content with that.
I'm curious, how long did it take for you to sit back on a dirt bike and be like, okay, I'm ready to ride again?
It was a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I think, before I even touched one. But it, it didn't take long before I was ready to ride again.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a Ducati 944 that was just a problem child, and that was what I rode right before I quit riding. But we finally got it running after 3 weeks of just having this pile of junk in the garage. We were on these motorcycles for, 12 hours, Ryan? I do remember I left my garage and I shut the door at noon, and I believe I finally parked it at around midnight. And I remember
Ducati?
Yeah, the Ducati. So the 944 is like an upright. It is the sport touring bike. It's supposed to be comfortable. It had the fancy $300 seat on it. And I still remember I parked it and I said, I don't want to see this thing for at least a couple days.
Yeah.
So
That's how we do it.
I can't imagine. But I know our
And,
current plan. Go ahead.
We did 6,000 miles.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
You remember that time, Mitch, in Tennessee, North Carolina, when we rode to the Tail of the Dragon? Or we rode at the Tail of the Dragon?
Yeah.
And we rode all the way from Robbinsville to Smoky Mountain National Park, Pigeon Forge, all the way back around.
Yeah.
That's probably the farthest I've ridden on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
We did the Tail Dragon on the Tap.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
We did.
Oh, I didn't realize it would go through there. But yeah, I guess it makes sense.
It's not on Sam's maps, but it's on GPS Kevin's. And that's one of the days where we picked GPS Kevin's map because it looked more interesting, and it took us right through the Tail of the Dragon.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I remember we were down there and it was just a rain fit the entire time for our trip. And we were tent camping. Borrowed my dad's truck to pull the bikes down there. I think we were sitting in the tents until 4 o'clock one night. We hadn't even really got to ride before finally we were just like, okay, we got to go out through the rain. And yeah, we went around, man, what's that mountain range there, Ryan? You're better at this than I am.
Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, we went around a good section of the Appalachian Mountains, cut through where Clingman's Dome was, ended up in one of the big towns there, cities in Tennessee.
Gatlinburg. It was
Yeah.
Gatlinburg.
And I think that was another good section of riding for us. But that was on sport bikes. That was on his X track bike because my Ducati blew up. Go figure. So I was on an X track bike and he was on his new track bike. So those weren't near as comfortable as. I can't imagine. Would a dirt bike be more or less comfortable than a sporty
riding on
bike?
dirt terrain, I feel like it would be less.
Depending on what you're doing on the road,
yeah.
I think it's less. On the road, it's less comfortable for sure.
Well, I just
'Cause
mean,
it's
well,
small.
yeah, I guess it makes sense.
It's small. You're getting blown around. You're feeling the road. The seats aren't as big.
Right.
You know, that makes a lot of sense because I remember you let me ride your DRZ. You were doing something. And I remember I got to 40 mile an hour and it just felt like I was in a constant head wobble. And I was like, I don't know how you guys ride these things. But,
Yeah.
again, my last bike was
no windshield. So
Right.
Kinda,
yeah.
blowing all over the road. Yeah.
Yeah. I got used to my 500-pound land yacht.
yeah.
But yeah, I know we are currently, well, it sounds like shipping is going to be terribly expensive because I have a, 4,000-pound SUV. So I think the current plan is he and I are going to try to co-drive the Xterra back and tow his motorcycle, which luckily we have that capability. But Man, I got to thinking, I was like, 3 weeks on the trail away from home. My wife and I will probably end up having a second child by then who will be very young. I was like, another 4 days on the road is going to be miserable. I'd rather just put some money aside and really try to ship it if I can. So,
Yeah, if you were gonna ride a bike down there with me, I would probably say we should just sell them in Oregon and
That's
fly
actually
home.
not a bad plan. Yeah, if you're
'Cause
not too
I
attached
don't.
to it.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I love my Xterra. I've only had it for a couple months. But if I could line up a deal with a V8 Pathfinder, just because it would be the same thing, but with a V8 and it would tow better, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge. I don't know. Maybe by then I'll have that brand new Land Cruiser money and I could buy that new Toyota Land Cruiser that's been announced. I doubt that's going to happen, but
New one's coming out.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much. Do you follow the whole 4x4 scene very much?
Loosely, but not that close. Yeah.
Yeah, this one caught my eye because heck, even the base model's got a locking center diff, it's got a locking rear diff, and it comes with kind of road tires. But that's the base model. I'm pretty sure they've got the base model set up so it's if you're gonna buy this and just pull the wheels, tires, and suspension off of it, just buy this one, and you still have all the drivetrain, but you can lift it, do your rooftop tent, do everything you're gonna do.
The MSRP on one of those.
Oh, $55,000. That's why I said I won't be able to afford one.
That's it? Wow.
That's actually lower than I thought it would
Yeah, I
be.
thought it was gonna be like 80.
Yeah.
Well,
Usually they're pushing 100.
right. Well, they're not cheap, and that is the
They are
base model, but
bulletproof. I mean, they're bulletproof.
yeah.
The world over, they're used everywhere. I was working in Mongolia several years back in the desert, and that's all they had out there. That's all everybody drove.
Wow.
And they
No.
said they wouldn't drive anything else because they were just so
Didn't
bulletproof.
last.
Yeah.
Now hold on, you kind of just glazed over that. You got to tell us about that. That sounds very interesting. Yeah,
Working in Mongolia, I've never heard
yeah.
of anyone.
yeah.
My professional career has taken me all over the world. I actually have my own company. We design and build industrial processing plants. So we do the electrical engineering, the automation, and the construction for all types of processing plants, anything from mining to water treatment to wood processing, you name it, about anything. So some of the projects we've done have been we've been all over Canada, all over China, Mongolia, all over the U.S. So yeah, I've
Awesome.
traveled extensively with my career.
That is super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Mongolia, that is pretty remote.
Oh yeah, it was cool.
mean,
It was fun. I was there for about 3 weeks, and we met a local guy, and one of our suppliers, and he took us fishing in the Gobi Desert. We got one, and he had a Land
Nice.
Cruiser. He had a Land Cruiser, and his buddy had one. Me and a couple buddies piled in with him, and we drove for 6 hours on just 2-track dirt road into the
Wow.
Gobi Desert. And we got there like 3 o'clock in the morning. We pitched tents, slept for the night, got up the next morning and trout fished all day. And it was some of the most beautiful country I've ever seen. It was
Wow.
like being in Montana or something. It was
Wow.
really cool. Yeah.
That is incredible. So I'm curious, how did you get into this? How did you get into this field? Was it just a career? You saw an opening and said, "Hey, I'm doing this on my own now."
When I was in college, working on my electrical engineering degree, being in West Virginia, coal mining is very, very prominent. And there were several companies in the area that were designing automation systems for the coal mines. And I just knew some guys that did it and got in with them and started working with them and worked my way up through their company to lead it. Within a few years, I was leading their engineering group, and then they got bought out by a bigger company, so I led that company's engineering group, and then back in 2016 decided to break away and start my own. You know, I'm tired of making all the money for them, so I broke off and started doing my own thing, and been doing that ever since.
That is
awesome.
incredible. And here I thought I made good use of my internships just because I had 3 crappy ones. That is super cool though. Yeah.
Thanks.
But so we talked about the obstacles. I did have another big question, and Ryan and I talked about this briefly beforehand. But getting back onto the Trans-American Trail, by the way, Did you guys take anything for protection? Because, my understanding is there's a handful of different bear areas around there.
We did not.
Really? Just
We kicked it around. I was going to take a pistol, because I have my concealed carry in West Virginia, but there's so many regulations crossing all the different state lines. I didn't want to deal with that, and we may have had a little thing of pepper spray or something with us, maybe, but we never got it out.
Yeah. Well, we're in the same boat as we both have our permits in our respective states. But yeah, I was kind of concerned about the same thing as, I'm not trying to get, especially a felony, considering I work for the government essentially. That wouldn't really go over well.
So quick Google search. Grizzly bears really aren't anywhere aside from Yellowstone in the U.S. or northern Montana.
Black bear would be your big problem. And black bears, most of the time, leave humans alone.
Yeah. Okay. They're pretty timid.
Well,
yeah, they are.
Worst comes to worst, I'll lock myself in the Xterra, and Ryan, you can hop on top of your bike and hope for the best.
I'll jump on top of your Xterra and try to swat it away.
We didn't have much. I mean, I think we did have a little thing of pepper spray or something in one of the bags.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we never got it out.
Interesting. Yeah, it was funny because we looked up the top speed of which bear was that, Ryan? Was it a black bear?
Grizzly bear.
Grizzly bear. Those
40
things can
miles an hour.
You can't outrun a bear.
No.
You can't outrun them.
And I bet you black bears are faster.
They're fast. I'm living in West Virginia. We have a lot of black bears. As a matter of fact, I was trail running on my property a couple weeks ago, and I ran onto 3 yearlings and a mama bear.
Oh my gosh!
7 o'clock in the morning, I ran right up into them, and the yearlings are looking at me and kind of coming towards me. So I start waving. They say wave your arms and make yourself big and say hey bear. I was doing that, and then the mama bear comes towards me, and I didn't have anything on me at all because I trail run all the time back here, and she came within about 30 feet, 20 or 30 feet. And I wasn't sure what to do because I know, I've been around black bears. I've seen them in the woods a lot, hunting, and they've always just kind of saw me and ran. But this one kind of was coming at me because she was protecting her cubs. And I just kept waving my arms and yelling at her, and finally she backed away and went back in the woods. So now I do carry bear spray with me when I trail run. I bought They make this a belt that police officers use, and it goes in the back of the belt. The canister does.
Yeah.
So the canister's kind of on your back, and you can get to it real quick if you need to. So I do carry that when I run in the woods now. It wouldn't be a bad idea to take one of those with you.
You guys have like bobcats and things like that over there?
Yep, but rarely ever see them. Rarely ever.
Yeah, I think that's the worst that we get. There was one. We believe it was a bobcat that tore up one of my grandma's horses. The horse is fine. It just got scratched, and we think it probably kicked the crap out of it.
I think I'm thinking of mountain lions. I think mountain lions are the dangerous ones.
Yeah, there's supposedly no mountain lions in West Virginia, but people say they saw them. So who knows? But you rarely ever see them, or bobcats either. But bobcats are around. I know guys who do trapping, and they'll trap them every now and then.
So like I said, I went back and rewatched some of your videos just to kind of refresh my memory. And one thing that I totally forgot about was you guys, and you've really brushed over this, you sort of went through a wildfire in Oregon. I don't know if it was necessarily a full-blown wildfire, but you were talking about how they were trying to burn a lot of the trees so it would stop spreading.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't look like it was anything crazy on the video, but is there anything you guys didn't film on that?
So we just got into this area, and it was hundreds of miles of dirt roads through wilderness, and we could see a lot of smoke in the air, so we knew something was up. But we kept rolling, and finally we got to a road crossing where it was blocked by the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And they would not let us through. They're like, no. They said we're doing a controlled burn right here to try to stop the fire. So they turned us around, and we got out our maps and just found a route around the closed road, and that was once we got around that area, it was fine. So yeah, it did keep us from going through part of the area.
That is incredible. Yeah, because I remember I was watching that, and I think I vaguely remember it might have been your video that I think you guys talked about maybe seeing smoke before that, or I might be mixing this up with something else. But I was
we did see
yeah.
a lot of smoke. Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. I remember I was watching that, and all I could think about was that old video of that guy on the Toyota Tundra who's right in the middle of one of those forest fires a handful of years ago, and I was like, I can't remember. Does it really get like that intense? But I guess you guys were able to avoid it.
Thankfully, we didn't get close enough to actually see the fire. We just saw the smoke, and we took detours around those areas, so we didn't want to get too up close and personal with with the fire.
Mm-hmm. So, on the bike situation, you guys took the CR450, which we talked about a little bit, but I forgot to ask at the time. Why did you ride the CRF450 versus, I guess maybe some other dirt bike, some other kind of dual sporty bike?
So there's a couple reasons. One reason was because it was a Honda, and Honda has dealerships all over the United States. About every major town has a Honda motorcycle dealership, and we knew that if we did have mechanical issues, we were going to find somebody that could work on the bike. That was pretty important to me. I like KTM. I love KTM. I have a KTM, and that's what I race. But there's not nearly as many KTM dealers as Hondas, or Husqvarna. Same thing. So, and Honda's just traditionally a very reliable machine. I've had a lot of Hondas over the years, and they're very well made and very reliable. So that was part of it. And the other part was the 450 RL was a fairly new bike for Honda, and it takes the motocross inspired suspension and engine and puts it in a road legal package. And we really, really like that because this thing is light. It's got very good suspension. You can jump it. If you want to jump 10 feet, you can. You can pop a wheelie anytime you want. It's got a lot of torque, and it's very snappy, and it's a really fun bike to ride because of that. It's pretty agile too, and it's light. So It's lightweight, it's agile, it's powerful, it's got good suspension. All those things were really important to me. Those things were more important than comfort on the street. It's not comfortable on the street. I won't lie to you. It's fine up to about 65 miles an hour. It's okay. There's no windshield, so you've got that going on, and it's light
Right.
and it's vibrating, but it's okay. It's tolerable. I'll say its road handling characteristics are tolerable, and its off-road characteristics are really good. And that's why we looked at the Honda, KTM, Husqvarna both have a similar model 450. We looked at. We kind of did not look at the DRZ or the KLX because those are heavier. They're a good bit heavier than the 450. And on those bikes, that's a street engine in a trail bike. Okay, so the engine doesn't rev like the motocross inspired engine of the 450. And there's trade-offs there. It's nice. The DRZs and those are nice because the maintenance intervals are so long. How often you have to change oil in those? What?
5,000 miles.
Yeah. 5,000 miles. Yeah. Which is nice. That's a nice thing to have, but we were willing to sacrifice more oil changes to get that
better
performance. To get that high revving performance engine. We had to change oil every 700 or 800 miles.
Wow.
Kind of a bummer. Yeah, kind of a bummer.
That's not too bad though.
It really wasn't that bad, and for me, it was well worth it. Well worth it. Because that bike is just fun to ride. And
do you guys have the stock seats on them?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Those stock seats they're like sitting on a 2x4. They're horrible. Yeah. We put a seat concept seat, which made it very, very comfortable.
Okay.
And that bike, having that snappy torque, you're on all these dirt roads, you can just, you want to just wind it out, do a wheelie, whatever, that power is always right there. And for us, it was worth it to do the extra maintenance to get that snappier engine and suspension too. The DRZ, if you jump that thing 5 feet, it's gonna hurt, right? That's gonna hurt.
And I can personally attest to the DRZ being heavy because I've I've picked it up countless times now, and
Yeah.
you can really only do it twice before you're just done.
Yeah, and you should really watch our Rainbow Trail video, because that was the most technical riding we did on the whole trip, and that's why we had the 450s. We wanted to be able to hit trails like that. We were hitting single track that was really difficult. I mean, we'd have a 4 foot step up. You know, we're coming up on
Oh
with
my
a root
gosh.
bank. A root wall was 4 feet step up. So you got to get on it. You got to wheelie, hit it hard, and jump up on it. You're not gonna do that on DRZ.
Couldn't do that on DRZ, no.
You don't have the suspension for it, right?
Nope.
But where the 450 CR 450 has that motocross suspension, you can do that, and we did it, and it was really worth it for if you're gonna hit the really technical stuff. But if you're just gonna be on the dirt roads, you don't need it.
It's funny because
That's why we chose it.
yeah, it's funny because
Fair
especially
enough.
hearing you guys talk about some of the technicality in these trails, I'm kind of going back and forth on, man, I don't know, should I put mud tires on my vehicle? I'm currently on Terra Grappler all terrains, which if you don't know, those are a very street friendly all terrain tire. They do phenomenal off road. I've had my exterior in some mud. I've had my exterior in some water, and it does great. However, I don't know. I don't think I want to risk trying to get a 4,000-pound vehicle unstuck with a TRZ. I don't think this is gonna work.
The worst mud you could hit is in Arkansas and Kansas in the flatlands, where if it gets a big rain overnight, those dirt roads just turn into
I've
pure
heard that.
muck, and you go around them. You know?
Really?
If you don't get stuck, you just go around them because you can't. They're impassable. We luckily didn't hit anything too bad. We hit one stretch in Arkansas that was kind of crept up on us. We're cruising down the road about 50 miles an hour, and we hit this section. It doesn't look muddy, but you get on it and you just start fishtailing, you know, and you're just all over the place. And all of a sudden, you know, you're just trying to keep from getting stuck, and you could hit some of that.
So, how many times? Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
How many times did you guys, especially towards the end of the trip, you know, hit something, fall off the bike, and then just kind of lay there thinking, I don't know, man, I'm ready to go home. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of getting that third week and, you know, getting my exterior stuck and I'm getting out, probably grabbing a winch. I'm going to have to buy a winch and going, this is just kind of past the fun point.
We definitely had a few of those moments. Rainbow Trail, I had a few of those moments because it was, you know, it was a butt whooping. It was fun, but it was just the energy expenditure was just tremendous. And we're at 10,000 feet elevation, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is fun anymore.
Right.
But you know, actually after that, the trail kind of got easier. We finished out the day, and then you're like, okay, I'm okay. We can do this, you know. And then the last week was. Luckily, there was no technical riding the last week. We were so tired, we decided just to stick to Sam's routes and hit the dirt roads and roll. So, you know, it was luckily just a matter of getting it done. And we were tired though. Every day we were pretty whipped and you know, not really as jovial as we were on the first 2 or 3 weeks. That last week was tough, really tough. It's kind of it becomes a mental game, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Just
gotta
finish it out.
focus, and I just got to finish this. Yeah.
Would you say that 3 to 4 week window is kind of just right? Do you think you could have had another week in you? I assume you guys just weren't going to stop. It was you go until you hit the end. But would you say 4 weeks is probably the sweet spot?
I think for me that was the max. I probably could, if I had the time and didn't have to come back home for work and whatnot, I could probably do some more time, but I'd need more rest days. We didn't take enough rest days. That's one mistake we made. We planned once a week taking a full day just for rest. You know, every week, just take a full day and just relax. Well, we're both very driven. You know, we're kind of get it done kind of guys, right? So we just put that hammer down, and we rode for 14 days straight without stopping. And
Oh, wow.
and that was too much.
Wow.
That was too much because we were just exhausted. We wanted to get to Colorado as quick as we could so we could spend extra time in Colorado doing the mountain passes, which worked out good. but we were too tired, and it hurt us on the back end of the trip. You know, just the fatigue buildup was just too much. So I wish we would have stuck to the plan of taking 1 day a week off for rest. I think if you do that, you could stretch it out a little longer if you wanted to.
Interesting. And I guess that 2 weeks you said just hammering down, that probably just came from being out there in the East Coast where it's kind of, not that it's bad, but it's not quite what you're there for.
Yeah, it's like we just want to get this done so we can get to the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And man, was it worth it too, though. I mean, the Colorado. I mean, I just can't describe how much fun we had in Colorado. It was great.
Forgive me, by the way. I'm not playing on my phone. I'm actually writing down stuff that I would like to talk about as well, as we're talking. So you said you guys rode for 2 weeks and then took a rest day. Then after that, did you kind of get into your weekly rest day, or were you guys playing catch up?
I think we took like a day and a half of rest, like right there, 2 days, and I don't think we took any more rest days after that. I think.
Oh wow.
We saw that, you know, it took a little longer than we thought. You know, we didn't want to pass that 30-day window, so we just kept the hammer down.
That's incredible. Now,
Yeah, we were zombies at the end of it.
I would imagine, and that's what I'm terrified of. I'm afraid of getting to that point where we are zombies, and then, you know, starved of sleep, and then you're just in there getting highway hypnosis. I actually just ran a autocross, a night event, about 2.5 hours away in my Miata, and I drove it down there. And I remember the event. I packed up my car and was heading out of the event at midnight. And I remember thinking, I was like, I should probably stay here. And I'm not one to like fall asleep while I'm driving. I've never really had that issue. But boy, I remember about 30 minutes out from my exit, I was like, I don't know, like pulling over is probably going to be a good idea. I ended up having to stop and just got like a tea or something, just a little bit of sugar to help kind of keep me awake. But that's what I'm afraid of on the way back.
I'd say you definitely want to manage your rest.
Right.
Important. It's extremely important. It's easy to overlook, but it's extremely important.
Yeah. I'm over here thinking, well, maybe a rest day on the way back would be as good as well, but I don't think I'd really want to do 2 days sitting in a crappy old Nissan. My vehicle's not comfortable. It's definitely not a Nissan or like a Mercedes. But yeah, I feel like we're going to be at the same point where it's run this thing up a little faster than the trailer's supposed to run forward and get home. But yeah. So one thing that I noticed is there's a lot of video content out there on the Trans-American Trail. And I was talking to Ryan about this, and I think a lot of people get caught up in making it this vlog style, this look at me and we're going to go do this thing. I think one reason I think we both really liked your content is you did an excellent job about showing people the trail. And then it just happened to be you guys on the trail. So when you go to watch your videos, you immediately get information on what's happening as it's happening. I think you did a fantastic job. It looks like you guys have been posting content online for a while. I mean, how much thought and pre-planning went into the video creation aspect of this?
Thanks, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
A good bit of thought. I mean, we really we did a couple of practice runs here at home, and I worked pretty hard on getting the mic set up just right. That took quite a bit of doing. It's not nearly as easy as it should be. You know, getting the GoPro and then the mic and then all the wiring in the helmet, and then we had helmet speakers that we communicate with each other. So we had to get all that going. And once I had that set up, kind of dialed in, then it was down to how to download and edit the videos. And luckily, I think we used iMovie on the iPhone, and every bit of the footage was done the day we rode. At the end of the day, we would stop, we would get our GoPros and download the videos we could on our iPhones, and scroll through them and find the good footage, or set it up and do a video just talking to the iPhone, and then use iMovie to just throw it together that night in the hotel.
Wow, that is insane.
Every day. 100% of the footage was done that day. and we would put it all together. And it was a pain. It took a couple hours usually, but it was also kind of fun, because we got to kind of relive the day. And Jake we'd sit for an hour, both of us, looking through our because there's an app you can download your GoPro to your iPhone.
Quick.
Of course, it fills up your memory real quick, so you got
Yep.
to delete everything, and that's a real hassle. And really, it started out as I wanted to document the trip, and one reason I wanted to do it like I did is because I hadn't really seen anything online that did it that way. I was
Yes.
like, I wish someone would just show me the daily thing, show me the daily routine, show me the grind, and nobody really does that.
No.
And so
I've
that's
noticed
why
that.
yeah, that's why I wanted to do it like that. And I thought I'm gonna just take, no matter what it takes, every day I'm gonna sit and just do at least a little vlog of me talking to the phone, saying what we did that day, and post it on YouTube. And it started out, if you notice, the first 2 or 3 days, there's really not a ton of content there because I wasn't downloading much of the GoPro. And then Jake, about 2 or 3 days in, he figured out. He said, "Hey, look, there's an app here. We can download the videos on our phone and put them right on the video as we go." It's like, oh, that's awesome. So then we started adding that in, and then Jake's really good at iMovie, and he showed me how to do it, and working together to figure out how to put it all together every day. And kind of as we went, we got better and better at editing stuff and trying to give a nice update, of us talking about the day. And it was a real commitment though that we had to make every single day to get that video put together. And I wanted to do it and have it post every day to YouTube so people could actually follow us live across the country. And a lot of people did. We had thousands of people viewing it every day all across on the trip, and they'd say, "Hey, where y'all going today?" And that was kind of fun, back and forth. "Hey, good luck in Arkansas today." Or some people would post and say, "Hey, you're riding by my house tomorrow. If you need anything, here's my address. Stop by."
That's
it was
super
fun
cool.
to interact with people all the way across on the trip, and that's really why we did it. And then kind of after the trip was over, people just kept watching them, and the views kept going up and up and up. So I think that's more of a byproduct of just us wanting to have that live stream trip of our trip basically every day.
Yeah. First of all, it's very impressive you guys were able to sit down and edit every single day like that. I edit all my content on CapCut, which is, I picked that up just because it's very popular. TikTok, which is where I kind of started, and I'll record a 6-minute clip to edit a 45-second to 1-minute video, and I'm sitting there going, I have to watch myself for 6 minutes, and I don't even remember exactly which parts I need. And then you get to the 6 minutes, you're like, oh, I gotta re-record this now. So that leads me to the question: how long did you guys ride every day versus sitting around the campfire, sitting in the hotel?
It was mostly riding. We would roll out. We didn't get up early. We would usually sleep in to try to get a little rest, and we'd usually roll out around 10 a.m. and we would ride till dark about every day. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was 8 to 12 hours a day.
You guys just stop on the side of the road and eat lunch
Yeah,
out of a
just
lunch
find
box?
a restaurant. Usually find a restaurant to hit we'd usually find a restaurant for breakfast and find a restaurant for lunch, and we had camp stuff for dinner, like dehydrated meals when we were camping. So yeah, but it was mostly moving.
How was it finding gas stations?
It was fine. We each carried a tank with us, like an extra can. I had not inflatable, but I had a collapsible fuel bag made by Giant Loop, which I really liked because you could roll it up and then pack it away. But then if you needed to put gas in it, you could fill it up and strap it to the back of your bike. And then Jake had a gas can on the back of his bike, one of the thin ones. I forget what brand it was. And there was probably 3 or 4 days where we had to get gas and carry it with us. But the rest of the trip, there were gas stations plenty. And it was mapped out pretty well. And we spent a lot of time every night looking at our route and trying to figure out which maps we were going to use and where the towns were, and we spent a good bit of time working on the navigation every night. That's a big part of it's the navigation. We used Gaia, and we got it on our phones is all we had, and we look in and find the route, find towns, and there were places where we would see, well, we're gonna need gas here. We need to carry gas because there's no town for 400 miles, So on those days we gas up our extra bag and container, and then we would have run out of gas if we hadn't done that. So you really have to watch.
Yeah, I don't know how my Xterra is going to do on gas versus the motorcycles, because obviously
You're going to be guzzling gas.
Well, obviously, yeah, it guzzles gas just in general. You got a V6 on 33, shit doesn't do too well. But I'm curious if I've got a big enough tank to offset that fuel economy difference, or am I going to be worse or better than you are, Ryan? Because ideally, if I'm better off, I'm kind of just carrying extra fuel for you. We can just bring a siphon and add into it. Or also, I've got a roof rack on it from the factory that I could always find a way to secure fuel tanks too. But
you could do some test runs, like a test ride drive, and see how many miles you can get out of a tank.
Yeah, and we haven't really gotten to the point of planning test rides and stuff. Obviously, since we're planning 2025, we've got a little bit of time. But I know I've got a whole host of things I would like to do, like for instance, rock sliders, for example. We saw some stuff that you guys were going through where it can only be described as rock ledges. I think it was Imogene Pass that was like that. And I just was sitting there watching, and I was like, I really don't want to come down on a rocker right in the middle.
Pass is serious. I mean,
yeah.
You better eat your Wheaties if you're going to go up and down that. It's
well, mark my words.
Steep and rocky.
Yeah, we're not going out there unless we do Imogene, Black Bear, Engineer Pass. I think there's a couple I'm forgetting.
What was the hardest pass?
Black Bear.
Okay.
Because of the switchbacks?
The Black Bear descent it's scary. It's freaking scary. The coming up is fine. I mean, it's Jeep road, it'll be fine. But when you head down, you're only allowed to go down. You're not allowed to come up it. They've got big signs everywhere, expert drivers only, dangerous territory. And when you head down that thing, it's not too bad at first. It starts out kind of chill, but then you start dropping off these ledges, and it's like a 3-foot drop probably. It just down you go, and then you get to this. They call them the steps, and you've got about a 100-foot drop, 150 foot drop on your left down into a creek, and on your right is just the rock wall, and the road's cut out of it, and it's going around a turn, and it's going down steps all the way around it, and it's doable. It's just freaky because you're thinking, I mess up here, it's a long ways down,
mm-hmm.
and you get down those, and then at the bottom of those you turn a hard left and you start down the mountain to where on your right hand side is 1,000-foot drops, 1,000 to 1,500 feet straight down, and on your left hand side is a rock wall, and they just cut the road out of that. So if it wasn't for your sides, it'd be easy. It's not a hard road to ride. It's very rocky and rough. It's rideable, but you're just thinking, if I mess up, this is bad. And then you've got these switchbacks going down that are just, straight down. It's really hard to see it in the video how steep it is. The video just never shows how steep it is. Man, those things are straight down. And that's where I was like, if I was in a Jeep right here, I'd be sketched out because I'm on a light dirt bike. I can throw this thing down and jump off of it, right? But on a Jeep, you gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah, so, I was watching Independence Overland go down Black Bear Pass. He's got an FJ Cruiser, lifted wheels, tires with the roof rack and everything. And I believe it was Black Bear Pass. He was coming down the section of steps, and there's a section where it looks like it's going to dump off into a pretty big pond, I would describe it as. And there's a very scary clip of his Jeep from the front as it's just teetering up, and I can't imagine that big rooftop tent on the top is doing him any favors. And eventually I believe he ends up just having to lift off the brake and just roll through it, and it sure looked like he was going to go over. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, I might have to plan out some better articulation for my vehicle before we do something like that.
Yeah, it's tricky. That's the trickiest section of the mountain passes. And then Imogene's pretty tough, but there's nothing like that in it. It's just really steep and rocky, and some ledges, but there's nothing quite as sketchy as Black Bear.
Now, one thing we had caught, we were rewatching some of your stuff before you got in here. You guys had mentioned you had a GPS phone, and you both lost a GPS phone. So
yeah, that was a big bummer. Yeah,
So you bought a phone just to use as a GPS?
Yeah, so our navigation plan was to use a cell phone. I didn't want to use my iPhone because having it out there in the wind all day kills your microphone.
Mhm.
It's been known that it's hard on your microphone.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Plus, your iPhone is kind of in the danger zone there, right? So I didn't want to use my iPhone. So what I did is I bought a Kyocera Duraforce phone. Bought it off of eBay for like $100, and I didn't activate it, but the GPS still works on it and the Wi-Fi. So I just downloaded the Gaia app, put my maps on it, and then I put it in a handlebar mounted holder, and launched the Gaia app and picked my route, and it guided me where I needed to go.
Yeah, those RAM mounts are notorious for losing phones.
Yeah.
In fact, I got the quad lock phone mount now. Way better.
Really wish we would have done that because it was fine until we got into the hard stuff, and then on Rainbow Trail, Jake, because we're doing these huge rock cliffs and wrecking in a creek and whatnot, and we realized his phone's gone, and there's no finding it. And then we got on Black Bear Pass to the bottom, almost to the bottom of it, and I looked down, my phone's gone, So there we are. Both of our navigation phones are gone. So we just got to pull out our iPhone every now and then and try to use it. And then we eventually stopped at a Walmart somewhere and just bought a cheap cell phone and didn't activate it and used it for the rest of the ride.
That's crazy.
I think the cell phone for navigation on the motorcycle was good. It worked fine. It's just the mount wasn't right. If we'd used a quad lock, I think we'd have been fine.
Okay.
Well, the good news is, Ryan, I'm going to have an Android radio. I've already got an Android radio in my vehicle. And it's nice because I can actually just run Gaia Maps straight there just on the head unit itself. It has nothing to do with my phone. So I think that might be kind of convenient. Now, my current one, Max Speeding Rods sent me out one of their radios to review. I've made a video on it, by the way. Don't buy the Max Speeding Rods radio if anybody's watching. It's not good. So I'm definitely going to get something more responsive before the trip because that one... especially Gaia Maps, it is extremely slow. But
yeah, the cell phones were a little tricky. Like, I wish you could see the display better because when you're riding, you got your lot going on. You're trying to look at your map. Sometimes you have to kind of look a little hard. Like, it would have been nice to have a larger format screen, but on the motorcycle, it's just hard to do that. I know some people use like tablets. They'll get a tablet, like an Android tablet.
Oh man.
I didn't want all that.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it's too big. I didn't want all that going on. So, I think the phone was the way to go.
yeah, I don't know what that Kyocera phone size is like, but I wonder if you could just get, Ryan, like a used phablet.
It's about like your standard iPhone size.
Oh, well,
Okay.
yeah, you don't really get a whole lot bigger than that then.
Nah, it's a little smaller, but not much.
Yeah.
And they're tough. The reason I bought it is they're known for their toughness, and it was a tough phone. I mean, still I lost it.
Yeah, well, who knows? If it's waterproof and water resistant, maybe it's out there surviving the range just
Probably
waiting.
still on down there at the bottom of Black Bear Pass.
No, I actually know where it's at because we looked for it that day and couldn't find it.
Yep.
And a few months later, someone commented on the video, said, "Hey, I saw where you lost your phone," and they put the time, and I rewind it, and you can see the phone fall off. And because Jake was videoing behind me at the time, and he was videoing me riding, and you can see the phone fall off. So I know where it's at on Black Bear Pass, but probably not going to go retrieve it.
I will tell you what, we'll have to reach out, try to find that timestamp, and maybe in 2025 we can return that.
It'd be pretty cool if you could find it.
That would actually, we got to take a note of that.
It was a real bummer because we'd been recording our GPS tracks the whole way, and we had been uploading them at night sometimes, but I hadn't done it for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
I lost like a week's worth of GPS tracks.
Oh man.
Yeah, Pale Horse. We've got a couple of people that like to come around for the podcast. Pale Horse just said it's probably washed away by now, and to be honest, that probably is about right.
Yeah, I'd say it's gone. Yeah.
It'd be cool if you could get access to that GPS, kind of like to Find My iPhone. But it sounds like you probably did not go to all that effort with that cheap phone. We'll go down there. We'll take a look.
It's right before the steps.
Right before the steps. All
Right
right.
before the steps. Okay.
We'll park the
It's a
Xterra right in
trophy
the
at
middle.
this point.
It really is. Now I'm challenged.
Yeah.
So one thing you mentioned the time frame you guys went. And I apologize. I can't remember exactly the month you said you guys left in.
July.
July.
July 1st and the whole month of July.
I bet it was a little warm.
And really, that was a great time to do it.
Oh.
All the snow had melted on the passes. I mean, it was hot in the east, but in the west, it was a good time because you didn't have to worry about any snow melt or snow.
Really? Well, because
All the passes are open.
What really was the temperature like up in the mountain passes, like above 8,000 feet?
It cooled down some, but it wasn't cold. I mean, it was July, so it was probably 50 degrees or so when you got high enough. And there was some snow left on the top of Imogene, but it wasn't in the road, so there was nothing. And there was some snow.
50 degrees is pretty cold on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were
Can be.
ready for it. Yeah, we're geared up for it.
Yeah. I didn't have gear for it, but I remember my cutoff was always, I think it was 35 degrees, and I was dumb enough to still ride to work. I remember I rode one day. Yeah, I rode. Well, I really wanted to just ride and sell my car when I was really into it. I had an SV650, and I remember I was on I-65 riding to my job, and I think it was like 42 degrees that day, and I was like, oh, this is still fine. And I remember going down 65, I had one hand up on the bar and one hand on the clutch cover, or not the clutch cover, I guess, but the crankcase. Yeah. And I had my hand directly on it with the glove, and I was like trying to stay warm.
One thing one mod we made to our bikes, which was really clutch, was grip heaters.
I will be doing that.
We put grip heaters on our bikes, and it was nice in the mountains to click that switch on and get those warm grips. Because if you can keep your hands warm, you're fine down to like 40 degrees.
Yeah, it's dangerous if you don't have like dexterity in your fingers.
Yeah.
On a bike.
Yeah, we ride here all winter long on the trails and stuff, and 40 degrees and up, you're fine. But below 40, it starts getting pretty cold on a motorcycle.
I might be thinking of 45 degrees. It's been a while since I had a street bike, but yeah, I remember I got a little too brave one time. I had a question that I was going to come off of that with. Oh, Ryan, I apologize, buddy. I know you're going to be cold, but we can go whenever you want. I'll have my heater running. I don't have the fancy steering wheel heater or the seat heater. Maybe I'll find
take a lunch break and hop in the Xterra with you.
Yeah.
Another thing on the motorcycle, make sure you have a good set of rain gear. You will get rained on, and it's gonna happen.
I do have a jacket with a rain liner already, so.
Yeah. See, and another thing,
I do want to get a set of like a rainproof riding jacket and pants set that like zips up in the middle.
Yeah. So what we did was, because heat's an issue, you want to stay as cool as possible most of the time, right? And if you put the rain gear on, you're just burning up. So what we did was we each had a pair of pants we could put on over top of our riding pants that were rainproof. And then the jacket that I wore was a Climb riding jacket, and it was rainproof already. But it was vented, so you could unzip it if you needed to. And the best thing that I had, though, was a pair of Climb waterproof socks for under your boot. That is clutch.
Okay.
Jake didn't have a pair, and I did. They're kind of expensive, but man, they're nice. You put those on, you can ride in the rain because your boots are going to get wet. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down.
Your feet are just toasty dry.
That sounds like a horrible time having wet feet.
We would get to the hotel, and Jake would be just, your wet feet all day long, and his socks are just soaked. His inside of his boots are soaked, and I'd pull my feet out, and they're nice and toasty dry. And
wow.
That was nice to have.
I'm over here. I've seen like a really bad case of trench foot, and I'm just imagining that in those motorcycle boots, Ryan.
It would just be annoying. I mean, you'd be able to dry your feet out at night, but man, riding like that for 8-10 hours, that would get very annoying. And
then the next morning, your boots are still soaking wet.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, one trick, you can put newspapers in them. That helps. If you put newspapers in, they'll kind of absorb a lot of the moisture from them. That helps.
Interesting.
Okay.
I've never heard of that.
If you don't have a long turnaround, your boots are still wet. it's nice to put those waterproof socks on and keep your feet dry.
I am a little jealous. I'm almost jealous of the misery. There's part of me.
Hey, you are more than welcome to join me. We got
It's so
quite a
tempting.
bit of time. We got quite a bit of time. And
Yep.
listen, you're only gonna do this probably one time, so
Yeah,
do it on a
I
bike,
just have to make
sell
sure I
it-
make it back.
sell it
That's
in
the
Oregon.
problem. Yeah, well, I guess then I won't have to
Well-
worry about risking selling or I won't have to worry about the upsetting fact of selling an old crappy Nissan, huh?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really want to do the motorcycle thing. So I have a thing for getting into just miserable situations and then, you're by the campfire later with a beer and looking back on it. I love that. I hate it in the moment just like everybody else, but
We're all about like big, crazy adventures. So
Yeah, see, Jake and I are the same exact way.
Yeah.
We see something and we just go for it.
yeah.
I think they call it like type 2 fun or whatever.
I'm not the only one that says it. See,
We-
I heard about that.
we don't always plan everything out the best, but we do some pretty crazy adventures.
Yeah.
The Pat is perfect for you because it's a crazy adventure, and honestly, it really was a trip of a lifetime. I mean, I can't even describe how much fun it was.
Yeah,
Just-
I mean it. I've
being-
watched hours of footage, and it just looks so fun.
To just have every day is a new adventure. You don't know what you're gonna hit. You don't know what's gonna happen. You're prepared for everything you can be, and you just head into it. And you're seeing the country in a way that you won't ever see it you're not
Yeah.
in a car. I mean, you might
Yep.
be in a car, but on a motorcycle, it's cool because you're out there in the wind and you got the smell. You get the smells and the full experience of
The
all
full
the towns.
experience.
Yeah, and you're going through all these little towns that the interstates and systems bypass completely, and it really is a great way to see the country and
Yeah.
kind of it's good for the soul.
Man, if I had more garage space, I'd be much more inclined to just pick
Oh,
up a
you
dirt
got
bike.
more garage space than I do. Come on,
Motorcycle doesn't
buddy.
take up much room.
Yeah, well, my wife and I we built a house in a housing complex or an HOA area, so we've got plenty of space. As I actually, when they built the house, I told them to swallow an entire room for the garage. So my garage is actually larger than anybody else here because it's got an additional room inside of it. But that's my work area. That's where tools, workbench, and now all my GoPro equipment goes, and technically where I film my videos. So it's one of those things where I'd have to park the motorcycle there, and then whenever I go to work on the Miata, or I'm considering trading my Miata now, so whatever project car I've got, I'd have to push out of the garage.
If I wanted to do the TAT on a shoestring budget on a
Mhm.
motorcycle, what I'd do, I'd go find an old Honda CR 250, street legal.
I sent you that DR 250.
They're
Yeah.
Couple weeks
DR
ago.
250. They're bulletproof. You can't kill them, and they've been around forever. And they'll do what you need to do to
Mm-hmm.
get you across the country.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to put more thought into this. Because I don't know. I think it's what's gonna happen is
Hey,
Ryan, you and I are
we've
gonna get.
already, you and I have already done the whole changing tires on bikes, and
I won't do that
we
again. By
got
the
all
way,
the tools.
we're not doing
I got
that
all
again.
the tools. I got all the tools in the bag of my DRZ.
I'm paying
We
somebody.
didn't have a flat. We didn't have one flat on the entire trip.
I remember
That's
you saying
awesome.
that. Yeah,
One. It was crazy.
What kind of tires were you guys running?
couple.
Dunlop D606 on the rear and a Pirelli MT21 on the front. And that's a
Okay.
great combo.
I figured
Love it.
that's what you were running.
Love
That's
it.
a very popular combo.
You guys are make me spend money. All right, we gotta
He's
move
thinking
on.
about it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Thinking
come back to
about
that. Well, now I gotta tell the wife that I'm gonna be riding back on the road again after I promised her I wouldn't. But
If you get a motorcycle though, you can ship them home. You'll be home quicker.
honestly,
Yeah.
if I just do the bike just for the tat,
Yeah,
I like the
sell
idea of just
them.
selling it. Yeah.
Or just
Sell
sell,
it, pay
it,
for the
fly
plane ticket.
home.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, on the time frame thing, I kind of jumped back to that. I know we are talking about Ryan. I think we talked about this September, but I don't know. We're nervous about the mountain
A
passes.
little late in the year for the mountain
I would
pass.
say. I mean, what do you think? Probably August. I mean that.
August would be safer to do.
I
I
gotta
think
look at the
September,
months.
September may be okay. It just depends on the year. Sometimes they'll get some early snows out there when you get up 10,000 plus feet.
Well, and the reason I wanted to go a little bit later in the year is because usually, at least at my job, things kind of have cooled down in that time period. And also, I kind of do want to see some snow and like play around in it a little bit, mountain
Yeah.
passes, but
I don't want to be playing with it on
not too. I don't want to play with
iMaging
too much
and
snow.
Blackberry.
Just a
Yeah,
little. Yeah, yeah,
because
And in
yeah.
worst case, you may have to go around some of the passes if they're snowed in, but it's
And
unlikely. They could
I
happen.
would like to go down the passes, so maybe we should kind of look a little bit earlier in the year.
in my opinion, if I'm spending all this money to go on this trip, I'm going down the passes. I I will extend the trip a couple days if possible and stay in a hotel. Well, I guess that late in the year, the mountain passes aren't going to cool down a whole lot to where the snow would probably melt unless we got really lucky. So my fear is if we got a lot of snow, it's probably done too late. But I would probably check the weather and say, okay, there's going to be a window where the sun's out, temps up. Let's see if it's passable. I'd have to
Yeah,
go and see that I can't do it before I say we're not doing
yeah. I'm the exact same way. I will have to go and try it, and
it. Specifically those though.
yeah,
Anything else, I'd be like, okay, not a big deal. Anyway, but yeah. So hotel versus camping. I know you guys talked a handful of times about the hotel versus camping. How often do you guys do each?
We did hotels more than camping. We
Mm-hmm.
had all the gear and we had the setup for camping. On the East Coast, it's hard to camp. There's
Really?
just nowhere to do it. There's just nowhere to do it. I mean, you can't camp in someone's backyard. You can't camp alongside the road.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of private property. So we did hotels on the East Coast. Once we got into North Carolina and Tennessee in the National Forest, we camped there several nights, which was really good. You could pull over and camp wherever. And then out west, we camped several times. But for us, we did hotels more than camping. And one thing was we had so many things to charge every night.
Yep.
And with the vlog we were doing, we had to charge the phones. Our bikes had chargers on them, but you can only do so much with that. We had to charge our helmet speakers. We had to charge our GoPro, charge the phone. We had to have Wi-Fi access or at least cell service to upload the video. So there's a lot of that needed to happen. So that kind of pushed us towards hotels more than camping, which drove our costs up for sure. But it was just part of the cost that we knew we were going to have. So, and it's really nice to have a hot shower and and a warm bed
Nice.
after a
Yeah.
10-hour day of driving and riding in the dust and
Plus,
sun.
I'm sure it was easier to edit your videos in a hotel
Yeah.
room than a
Yeah.
tent.
So much easier than the tent. And we brought charging blocks with us, like battery blocks, and we would charge those up when we were in hotels. So when we did do tents, we could use those to recharge everything. But once the battery block dies, you can only go so far on that.
You know,
That was a
Ryan,
big consideration for us.
one thing talking about taking the Xterra is I've already convinced myself that I will be going with a full effective hot shower setup with the Xterra enclosure. I've seen a handful that they actually run off direct power from the engine. I wanted something serious because I get really annoyed and I get really frustrated when I can't get a shower afterwards. We
I know you do.
Yeah, we took a trip out to Yellowwood. It was just a little camping trip, essentially. Drink beer by the fire, pretty much is what the excuse was for. And yeah, I woke up the next morning and I was like, I am leaving as soon as I wake up. I woke up at 6 a.m. and I wasn't joking. I had the truck packed up 10 minutes later and I was heading home. I was like, I'm going home. I'm gonna hop in my shower.
Well,
But,
that was one consideration also. Jake, when he was in college, he did a lot of rock climbing. He really got into the rock climbing scene, and he and his buddies would go for a week at a time and just camp and rock climb, and just sleep in hammocks for a week at a time. So he was kind of over the whole camping every night thing. He did not want to camp as much.
Yep.
Part of
Fair
it.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
What have you guys not done exactly then? I see you kind of do a little bit of guitar as well and rock climbing, and you guys just kind of do anything adventurous.
Yeah, we're adventurous, that's for sure.
You
That's-
play guitar too?
Yeah.
Nice. So do I.
Oh, nice.
You just Are you in a band, or you just do your own kind of
I
like?
used to be, not anymore. I played in heavy metal bands, rock bands, country
Really?
bands. I played in a
Oh,
bluegrass band, played mandolin in a bluegrass band for a while. So yeah,
Wow.
back years ago, I used to play a lot of music, mostly like guitar, lead guitar. I could play all the Eddie Van Halen eruption stuff, and all
Oh,
that.
that's crazy.
Really into that for a while. Yeah, made some recordings and stuff. Yeah, so
Cool.
had a lot of fun with that, but found out at a young age that it was hard to make any money doing it. So,
Yep.
but yeah, we still play a lot. Jake and I both play campfire kind of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing when I was younger, and then kind of realized wasn't really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. So I don't know. This is going to be a difficult question, but cost. I think we have aired, just throwing out rough estimates. I, I think our estimates were 4, 5, 6 grand range. If you had to guess, where do you think you guys ended up as far as not necessarily buying the motorcycle, but just the actual trip itself, the running cost of doing the trip?
Well, honestly, I have no idea because I just didn't track it.
Yeah.
That, I was just like, I don't know if you've ever watched any of John T. Young's videos, but he's a guy.
No, I'll talk to them.
He does a lot of Honda CRF 450 adventures like this.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing he said in his videos was, people ask him all the time, "What's this cost?" He said, "Never, never count the cost. If you love doing something and you want to do it, it's worth it. Don't worry about the cost." So I really didn't count it, but it was at least $5,000 at least,
Mm-hmm.
between 5 and 10. I'll say that because you've got hotels and food and fuel, oil. And it's several $100 a day. When you get to looking at all of that. So if you spend $200 a day on all that, 30 days, it adds up quick.
but
Right.
we're planning on doing half of what he did.
True, you're not doing 30
Oh.
days, are you?
But
Yep.
I'm also carrying 4,000 pounds with a V6 versus a single cylinder
Well,
thumper.
we haven't convinced you to buy a bike yet, but we're
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, the talks about the hot shower, all of a sudden I was like, I don't know, I'm right back on track with the Xterra. We'll see. I really don't want to get to the end of the trip after I spent all this money, been away from my family, and gone, darn, I feel like I didn't get the experience.
Yep.
So,
And, like Billy said, you can just sell the bike in Oregon and fly home. We don't have to worry about the extra 5 or 6 days of driving.
to be honest, it's not making the trip on the bike that's got me on the fence. It's the everything beforehand. It's the buying the bike, sticking it in the garage. When I'm also going to have kids' toys here soon, I'm already pumped to buy my son his first Power Wheels Jeep and, connect that to a bunch of Milwaukee batteries and make it do wheelies. So, and I've already got, a stack of tires in there that are ready to go on my car as it sits. Next season for racing, I'm only wanting to expand and do more racing next year. I'd like to have another set of tires so I can go drifting. So my garage isn't opening up at all. It's just getting more tight. So I don't know. Eventually something's going to have to give, but we'll see.
We got plenty of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I had so many other notes that I had wrote here, and my phone threw them all away on me. And I was trying to dig them up. But yeah, it sounds like an incredible trip, and I am very excited. But I'm curious,
So am I.
how long did you guys plan your trip? Because I saw you guys did a couple of test camping trips.
We probably spent 6 months planning our trip.
Oh, so you guys actually kind of got into it pretty quick.
Yeah, we in October we went and bought the bikes the same day. We went and bought the 450s, and we immediately started modifying them, buying the gear, doing the research, riding all the dirt roads around here, getting used to them. Did a couple of overnight camping trips here, so it was from October till July.
Yeah,
So,
we
yeah.
definitely need to start doing some overnight camping trips.
We spent probably November through to July, so 6-7 months planning.
So I'm curious now. You had a lot of success kind of posting your content online. So when are we going to see Billy, and I apologize, I forgot your son's name, tackling the Pan American Trail?
That would be fun. I'd love
Yeah.
to do another trip, but I don't know. I can't answer that yet. To be determined. Actually, the next trip I'd like to take is the Divide Ride. And
Oh, that's a good one.
Start in New Mexico
Yep.
and do the Continental Divide all the way up through Wyoming, Colorado, and up into Banff, Canada. That's the one I'd like to do next. It's a little shorter than the TAT, but I
But
think
it looks like it's all like technical fun riding.
it would be more technical and funner, like more back roads and more remote riding. So that's the next one I'd like to do, but I don't have a date yet because life happens, a lot going on. So not sure.
It's very
Have you
understandable.
ever seen Honda C90 Adventures?
I was going to
Oh,
bring
yeah.
him up.
I love
Ah,
those.
Dude.
We watched every episode of that.
That
before
guy
we did
is
the-
crazy, man.
He
How-
is. He's
He
fun
is
to
about
watch.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that guy's nuts. I remember.
He's driven through like all across Europe into Asia, and like I mean he's
Great.
done a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I remember I was watching his videos on the Pan American Trail, and he was coming down nearly freezing to death, almost getting hit by semis on this 90cc. And then all of a sudden he's like, we're doing the Trans American Trail. And I was like, how is that going to work? You're going to have to come back. And then he gets to the end, he goes west to east. And he's like, we're got to go back now. And I was like, dude, just ship the bike back. Like, this
And
is
then he
crazy.
drove to Mexico after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on this guy to be like, we're doing the Darien Gap now.
Yeah, and he did the Trans Canada Trail in the winter. That was
Oh
insane.
man. Yeah.
Insane.
In the middle of like the Great Plains,
Yeah,
like negative 30-degree weather.
riding all
Yeah.
the way across.
I'm pretty sure he slept next to his bike running with his hands on the engine, just to stay
I-
warm.
I believe he did do something
Yeah.
like that.
was
Yeah.
impressive.
I think he did.
I was impressed. That was a real inspiration for us.
Yeah.
Another inspiration for us was the Long Way Round series with you and McGregor. You seen
I
that?
gotta look that one up.
I have not seen that.
Oh, it's great. It's great. The original was like probably 15 years old. Him and a buddy, they went all the way around the world. They did the
Really?
long way around. They started in London, went all the way to
That-
America.
Hey, that's Obi-Wan, man.
Yeah, it's Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a great
I
series.
didn't know if it
And
was
he-
that Ewan McGregor or not. But
it's
yeah,
him.
how have I not heard about this?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's great. And then they did a reunion show later, I think a couple years ago, where they did it again. But the original's much better. It's good. Him and Charlie, his buddy Charlie. But it shows how they prepared for it, and what all they did to get ready, and they had a third rider riding with them just to video everything.
Just to
So
film.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Great footage. And
I knew he was into doing track days, but I did not know he did this. This
yeah,
is
yeah, he
I'm
did.
gonna have to
It's
watch
good.
this.
It's a really, really good. I think it's on Apple TV. I think.
Wait,
Okay.
Obi-Wan
Highly
Kenobi does.
recommend it was a great
Obi-Wan
inspiration.
Kenobi rides bikes like hard.
Huh.
Like he's seriously into it.
Yeah.
He was doing track days in California like a couple weeks ago. Pretty sure.
Yeah, he's a good rider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dream would be able to get big enough to do. This isn't off-roading, but I don't know if you watch Gears and Gasoline. They're all cars related, but they've been doing all those road trips, and I am just so jealous. I want to be the one that's driving across the United States in a Miata with the top down, with no
Yeah.
storage. It looks like so much fun. But they do the same thing where they've always got a support vehicle with a camera, and that's what I got to thinking about is as I've kind of gotten into creating content, and I'm not like big creator like Gears and Gasoline is, but I've been getting more into it and trying to plan out these shots, and then we're off road and everybody's trying to tackle some obstacle, and you're like, do I hold everybody up to set up the camera? Or I was watching All Things Overlanding, who is from Indiana here, and he was talking about how he'll set up the camera and he'll go across the obstacle and then have to come back, grab the camera, and go back. And I'm like, that's a lot more dedication than I'm at right now, but
Tough, really tough to get good content because of that.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I've
For the
realized.
GoPro is nice, and having two riders, each one with a GoPro.
Mhm.
And for us, that was really nice because someone probably got a pretty good shot of us doing something.
Yeah, our last trip, I finally had two running, and my buddy about rolled his Jeep XJ, my friend Brandon that is normally here with us, And we went back, and I was like, no, I didn't get it. And then as I was editing videos that night, I was like, I did get it with the second camera. And it was, I was able to send it to him. We were all excited. But
Yeah, I actually earlier this year, I actually went back and started remaking some of our videos. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yep.
So you have the original TAP videos, which was every day, and then I went back and when I had more time, I went back through all the footage and got like all the footage that wasn't on the original videos and kind of made another series. And I'm only about halfway through that right now.
When did you do that? When did you start doing that?
Last summer. Yeah.
Okay.
That
I think
was,
I first saw him probably 2 years ago, or
Yeah. Yeah. So you probably saw the original TAP
Yeah.
video. Yeah. So I have another series that's basically, it's called the Trans-America Trail in Detail, and it kind of goes a little more into each day because I had time to sit and edit all
Right.
of it. And I even did some voiceovers, kind of explaining where we were at and what's going on. And I think I got it all the way up to Colorado. I think I've got that done so far, and eventually
Okay.
I'm going to pick back up and do the rest of it from there to Oregon, just as a kind of a deeper dive into it.
yeah, I'll have to go back and watch the remake series because I don't think I've watched that one. I know that they exist because I saw it when I was going back and rewatching.
It's all new footage. It's very, very
Oh, okay.
repeated footage. So I tried to just use footage that wasn't in the original, so that it was always something new.
Nice.
And I
That-
did a lot of voiceovers.
I really like that idea. I think because when we go, I definitely want to record it.
Oh, yeah.
And create content, obviously.
We should both have cameras on us too.
Yeah, I would want multiple cameras, and again, if we are in the Xterra, I would. Well, actually, I guess we could get constant power from your bike too, where we could have a GoPro plugged in.
Yep.
We'll have to worry about that eventually, but I would like to do not a vlog style, because like I said, I don't like when the video gets turned into from the Trans-American Trail to now all of a sudden it's about this individual doing something. I want to learn about the trail, and that's part of the reason why I've been wanting to do this specifically with the Xterra, is because there's not a whole lot of information out there in the trucks, and I specifically would like to sit down and make a large list of questions that I had and make sure that they're answered in this content. And then I guess I would go back and do a more longer in detail style series. I like that idea. I'm definitely stealing that. So in 2025. But yeah, it's incredible how little information is specifically out there for the vehicles. It's people have done it a handful of times. There was a guy in a Raptor that I saw a while back doing it, or it might have been a T-Rex, and then there's the guy currently doing it in the Raptor. I'm in a Facebook group for it, and I would actually like to reach out to somebody there and try to have them on as well here soon. But there's really not a whole lot. How much fuel should I expect to use? And obviously it's going to differ. If you've got a twin turbo V6 or a supercharged V8, you're going to consume a lot more fuel than my 4-liter V6 will. But yeah, it seems to be a very big gap in the market. That's where we're going to go make our big bucks, Ryan. I'm going to buy us both new bikes.
All right.
So,
I'll hold you to that.
all right. But you got to be careful. I'm making big money right now. I can almost buy myself a meal at McDonald's with my TikTok money. So I'm getting really close.
There you go.
That
Baby
tax is
steps,
holding me
baby
back.
steps.
The checks rolling in, right?
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I was talking to the wife, and I've been posting this content like online for a little while. But it was originally just I wanted to record my hands while I was at autocross to see what I was doing so I could improve. And I threw a video up one day, and then it did like 40,000 views, and I was like, this is what I'm doing now forever. Like this is my new hobby. And I wasn't wrong. I keep coming back to it now. And now, I bought the GoPro. I just bought this mic specifically for the podcast style stuff. It's starting to snowball pretty quickly. Now I'm about to paint a section of my wall in my garage, I think. Because right now it's just a mudded drywall. So, but yeah, it snowballs very quickly. The long way around though. So how did they do that? They take a bike all the way around the world.
Yeah, they each rode a motorcycle, and they went from London and rode all the way through Europe, and
They just
Russia.
ship it on a boat when they hit.
Put it on a boat, go to Australia and
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they
US.
hit Australia. I think they went around Europe through through Russia, all the way through Russia, and then somehow got across the Bering Strait and into America.
Oh, wow.
All the way down. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
What's the Bering
Cool.
Strait?
The Bering Strait between Russia and Alaska.
Yeah. I
Where-
think they put them on boats for that.
Used
Wow.
to freeze over, so our ancestors walked across it.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that happens anymore.
No, I don't think so.
It'd be pretty incredible. You're riding your bike, and the next thing you know, you're in the ocean.
It really inspired us a lot to try.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
You know, one thing that caught my interest recently was the Darien Gap. For some reason, I was just fixated on why people wouldn't try it. Well, I don't know if you guys know. Well, first of all, Billy, do you know what the Darien Gap is? Yeah.
In South America, it's the only section you can't really get through.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Chevy sent 2 Corvairs to try to go across it. Did you know that? There is still a Corvair.
Bears.
Corvairs. Yes, go look it up. There's 2 Corvairs that went through it. One of them made it through somehow. I don't fully understand how, but there is still a Corvair sitting in the Darien Gap that you're just not getting out. I watched a series with it's one of the big motorcycle content creators on YouTube. I don't remember the channel name, but there was a couple of ex-military guys that picked up a couple bikes and they went and they hired a handful of gentlemen to help them get through the gap. And they all 3 burnt up clutches within a couple days. I mean, it didn't last long before they just got to the point where they were pushing these bikes. And yeah, they ended up passing that Corvair. And then I know Land Rover sent 2 Land Rovers through it too. But I believe the Land Rovers made it through pretty well. But yeah, there's a lot more people that have crossed it than I thought. There's actually a couple on YouTube that do overlanding content. And I believe they either just went through it or they're going to try to go through it. And they're in like an overland van. But they said, no, we're doing it.
Good luck.
I need to look up that video. I'll have to try to get some snippets of that. It'll be fun to talk about. Yeah, I watched those 3 gentlemen try to get those motorcycles through there, and it is thick. I fully don't understand how the Corvairs got to where they did. Yeah, interesting read if you guys got some time. Oh wow, it is 8:30. So I'll tell you what, we're gonna kind of come around to the closing statements. I'm surprised my wife isn't home, but I know at some point here soon I gotta go help give my son a bath and in bed. But Ryan, did you have any other topics that you're wanting to bring up? I think surprisingly I've hit all the items that I was wanting to talk about.
I think I'm good. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. It's a very
Thank-
valuable information, and we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, I'm always up for talking about dirt bikes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. I think we will definitely have to have you back on eventually
As
here
we get
soon.
closer, maybe a year checkup, you can come back on.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Awesome.
I'd be happy to do it. And if you have any questions while you're doing your prep work, feel free to shoot me a note. You got my email address. Just let me know. I'll help out any way I can.
Yes, sir. I
Well,
really
I get a
appreciate
lot
the
of
offer.
calls. I get a lot of calls and messages from people getting ready to do the tat, and
Really?
Yeah.
it's.
I'm
pretty
sure.
steady. It's pretty steady.
I would say you probably have one of the best video series on YouTube for that. I mean,
Thanks. I try to take time, to help everybody out because I know I was in that position at one point and when
Yeah.
you first start planning, you're just like, where do I even start? And several people that I had got a hold of that were a big help for me, help me kind of.
yeah, and like when I first learned about the TAD, and I started thinking about, oh, maybe I should do that sometime when I'm older. I think it was like 2017. I was in college.
Really?
There was
I didn't know
There
that.
was hardly any content on YouTube about the
Yeah.
TAD, like almost nothing.
So I'd be glad to help you all out if you got questions about planning.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I definitely think I think we're gonna be doing the podcast for a while. This is, like I said, this is a newer thing, so some of this stuff is still a little bit rocky, but it'd be really cool to kind of have you back on right before the trip and just be like, all right, well, I should be saying goodbye to the wife, but nope, we are here podcasting. So,
Yeah.
okay, but yeah, I better hop off here, call the wife, and make sure she's got the son okay, and get him in bed. So, but yes, thank you very much. You've made our very first our first episode with a guest very simple. So I appreciate that.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
thank
Billy.
You. Yep. Thank
Yep.
you guys.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Hello.
Hey, I just
Hey.
figured we'd touch base before I hop offline. We're actually still live. That was off on though.